Why don't you sit right there and let me tell you a story? Yeah, a scatterbrain story that an idiot comes up with. But hey, let me tell you a story. It's been roughly 10 hours? No. Yeah, 10 hours since I recorded the last one. And I didn't think I would like this one very much because I never really got into Demon Slayer very much. But once I did this one, I really liked it. So my criteria is the first episode is your request, and if I hate it, like I absolutely hate how I'm doing it, I either will restart it to where I like it, or I will just stop it because I don't like the either abilities or the setup I have to do for the character. So I like this one. I like how I did the setup. I put out and if you guys haven't seen my uh, power scaling for My Hero Academia, you guys go to that episode and you'll understand the SS, SSR, and all that. Well, SS, triple S, AAB, and that kind of scaling. So I just suggest you guys go look at that video. And at midnight tonight, California time, I'll be looking at that video. I may be a little tired, but I'll be looking at that video and seeing how many likes it has. It might not have very many, but we'll see how many likes it has. And it depends on how many more what ifs I would do. If I get 10 likes, I'll add two more what ifs. But if I get 5 likes, I'll add one more. If I get 3 likes, I'll just continue doing the power scalings. So yeah, I'll be right back. Okay, so where we left off, I asked a question, and I only got one person to answer. But that's fine, because I was looking for at least one person to answer. What is a true hero? Heroes are people who save people's lives while risking their own. But the title hero in this My Hero Academia story has been tainted with people going for fame and fortune. And my god, I was just about to say his name perfectly fine. Nezuko's brother. Oh my god. You guys don't need to hate on me in the comments, but oh my god, I forgot his name. Tanjiro. Uh, why was that so hard? Tanjiro. So Tanjiro asked Aizawa, or it looked like he was asking a desk for an answer, but he knew Aizawa and Nezuko knew Aizawa was there. So, yeah, it's early in the morning. So, Aizawa ponders this, and Tanjiro speaks up. And he says, "You are a true hero." And Aizawa, being confused, asks, "What do you mean, a true hero?" And Nezuko walks up behind him in the adult form because she's still acting like an adult near Tanjiro. And she says, "Because you risk your life, you'll do anything to protect the people you are sworn to protect. You are like a police officer. You'll do what is needed, even if people don't want it. Sometimes, yes, you mess up, but 90% of the times, you do what is needed. You are risking your life for us. And he says thank you to them. And they go sit down. Then Aizawa gets up and says, okay, class, I have a question for you. And Tanjiro and Nezuko look at him a little confused, thinking, wait, what? Why didn't he just ask us then and we could have answered it then? Then Aizawa walks up to the podium and says, what is a true hero? And give me an example of a true hero. Then he looks at Nezuko and Tanjiro and says, you guys can't answer this because you guys gave me this question. And everybody looks at Nezuko and Tanjiro and asks for help, and they go, we can't say anything. Well, Nezuko says, we can't say anything because we were told to keep our mouths shut. And Aizawa goes, you can do whatever you want today, but by the end of the day, you need to give me the answer to this question, or you all fail class for the day. And everybody pales, including Ida. So everybody pulls out their phones and looks up, what is a true hero? And Nezuko starts laughing because everybody's like, okay, a true hero is this, and this. And Nezuko overhears everything while she's laughing and laughs even harder. And they all look at her and ask, what's so funny? And Bakugo is currently yelling at this point, like, all you idiots, and All Might's obviously a true hero. And Nezuko laughs even harder and goes, yeah, no, he's not. They all ask, why is All Might not a true hero? And Nezuko, it's going to be somewhat of a mean Might story. And currently All Might's outside the door because it was his day to do a exercise. And when Aizawa asked that question, All Might started pondering the answer, thinking, what is the answer? And so they're still going to do the exercise. It's the heroes versus villains. But All Might walks into class saying, I am here, pondering that question. And everybody looks at All Might and goes, All Might! Then they start asking All Might millions of questions about what a true hero is. And All Might says, even I don't know the answer to that. And everybody looks shocked, and except for Tanjiro and Nezuko, which they had a feeling that All Might wasn't really symbol of peace material. So Nezuko asks All Might to walk out of the room for a second and talk with her. And so All Might graciously accepts because he knows if he angers her, she's gonna go berserk, and she can completely eradicate him. So she currently looks like this in the picture. That's what her average everyday clothes look like. So they walk outside. All Might says, yes, what is it, young Aizawa? And she says, you can drop the act now. I know how you actually feel. So All Might says, okay, follow me. So they walk to the faculty room and All Might goes, oh, fuck. Putting on that facade is so hard. And she goes, I knew it. He goes, how the hell did you know I was putting on a facade? She goes, first off, I feel anger from you. Yes, I can feel emotions. Second off, I feel sorrow from you. And those two emotions normally don't mix without negative consequences in someone's personality. And All Might goes, yeah, I want to kill that son of a bitch. But she's like, exactly. That's not how a symbol of peace talks. All Might goes, I earned the name symbol of peace before I this happened to me. And he pulls up his shirt and he shows the wound. And and All Might, now in skinny soggy French fry form. Sorry. Small Might form. Tells her, I may not be a true hero, but I'm still a true hero. I will save people no matter what. She goes, you mainly save people because the villains give up. The only reason why you actually save people is because the villains are scared of you. They're scared of your power. So they give up. Not the other way around of you actually saving people. If you saved people, you would be risking your life against harder foes than you have. I think I remember one instance where you had a stronger foe. It was a story my dad told me. It was you against this guy named All for One, I think. And All Might's eyes widened, not thinking anybody knew the name All for One. And he goes, "Yeah, that motherfucker killed my master and left me with that present." And All Might's currently saying everything in a snobby, rich person uh, attitude, like I'm entitled to everything kind of attitude. And Nezuko's just brushing it off. So, like 30 minutes later, they walk back to class, and All Might's in his buff form, and he talks to the class, going, "I'm here for training," and he clicks a button. "You can't be heroes without your fashion," and all that. So Nezuko gets her traditional outfit, but changes into demon form, and that's kind of what demon form looks like, with the what looks like leaves, but with the pink and black uh, outfit. Because yes, her eyes are light pink in normal form. I'm changing it a little, and dark pink in demon form instead of dark pink in normal form and light pink in demon form. Because I think that would just work better. The dark pink in demon form. So they get out to the training field, and everybody sees her in this kimono style dress, and they ask, "Is that your hero costume?" And she goes, "Yeah." And Tanjiro walks out, and they ask him, "Are you seriously joining us for training?" And he goes, "Yeah." And Nezuko says, "Remember, be careful." And since she knows what his quirk is and he doesn't, she handed him a blunt sword. He grabbed it like a professional and swung it like a professional. And he's like, "Wait, is that my quirk?" And she goes, "Yeah, your quirk is based on the sword. It's called water, water breathing, fire breath, and sun breathing." I think that's what it was. I think he has access to sun breathing, but he has water breathing and fire breath. I remember that from the anime. I think it's called fire breath. So All Might says, since there's two younger kids, I'm putting them with the two older kids. And then Nezuko immediately goes, "No, I want to be with Tanjiro." And he goes, "Okay, fine. You're with Tanjiro, and everybody else, pick your teams. But it's got to be someone you don't work well with." They're like, "Why do you give her special treatment?" And he goes, "You see what form she's in now?" And I go, "Yeah. She's stronger than me at my prime." And they go pale, and I go, "What?" He says, "She broke every single pane of glass in UA with one throw of a ball. I can't do that." Ooh, sweeper truck rolling by. Um, he goes, "I can't do that." And like, okay. So Bakugo and Todoroki start arguing, and this yellow-haired guy walks up to Bakugo and asks, "Can I be on your team?" Bakugo says, "Okay, whatever, extra," and walks away. And this yellow-haired guy walks with him, and he currently has a sword on his waist. I'm going to change his breathing style just a little bit. It's still going to be thunder breathing, but I don't know all the forms for it. So I'm going to just call the first form Thunderclap. Or Thundercrack, whatever. And so he's like, "Villain team, place the bomb on whatever floor you want." And it's Tanjiro and Nezuko that are placing the bomb on the chosen floor. And Bakugo, who's irritated at Nezuko for showing him up and looking down on him, he really needs to get over that mindset. And he's about to. Looking down on him, asks All Might if his team, him with this random person in class, can go against them. And All Might says, "Sure." But then he asks, "What are your quirk types?" And Bakugo, only thinking that there are two, he says emitter. And I really don't like this part. Zenitsu says evolution. Bakugo looks at him strangely and says, "What do you mean evolution?" And All Might calls Aizawa and says, "Have you not taught them the old category because of them in class?" And he goes, "No, I haven't taught them yet the old category." So All Might goes through a quick crash course of the one form, the two form, and the evolution for quirks. And Mina, and he says Mina and Bakugo are first forms. Ida is a two former. And Ida goes, "What do you mean two form?" And All Might says, "With how your family was, you can activate and deactivate your engines. You'll just be really slow when they're deactivated." He goes, "I can't deactivate my engines," and All Might goes, "Yeah, you can. You just have to work at it." And Ida thinks, "I can finally wear normal pants." I'm sorry, I just had to make that joke. So currently, Ida zones out and starts concentrating on his engines, and Zenitsu says, "My evolution just unlocks more of my quirk because I can only use one section of my quirk right this second." And he goes, "Okay, it's understandable. Now we have one first form on both teams and one evolution on both teams." And they're like, "Okay, that's a good matchup." And Nezuko is currently waiting at the door, waiting for him to say start so she can walk out into the front and block it off with fire because she knows she has pyrokinesis in this form. Because in the few months that they've been in normal society, they've been training their quirk nonstop. So Tanjiro knows everything about water breathing, not flame breathing yet, and Nezuko knows everything about her abilities at this moment. And when Bakugo and Zenitsu get out front, and yes, I'm changing Zenitsu's personality a little bit. I'm changing it to where he's the passed out version of Zenitsu, the one that can actually use thunder breathing, which it's very funny. So he's currently in a sleep-like state, and he's had the he's had people hypnotize him to where whenever he's grabs his sword, he goes into a sleep-like state where he can still interact and talk to people, but his eyes are closed 100% of the time, and he can still walk around like that. That's only when he has his sword in his hand. So when All Might says go, Zenitsu gets in a stance, puts both hands on his sword, and he feels Nezuko coming down the stairs at high speeds, and he says, "Thunder breathing, first form, thunderclap," and strikes Nezuko in half. And everybody knows that Nezuko has hyper regeneration, and this is a normal blade, so it can't kill demons. And even if they did have those blades, it can't hurt Nezuko like it did in canon, Demon Slayer. So he cuts Nezuko in half, and he runs up the stairs, and Bakugo is standing there dumbly, being like, "What the hell just happened?" All of a sudden, he was cutting someone in half, and Nezuko starts yelling at Zenitsu. She yells, "Get back here! Don't you dare hurt my brother!" Or in the protective words that Nezuko would yell. So when Zenitsu gets up there, he now has a breathing fight with Tanjiro. And Nezuko finally attaches her lower half again and starts fighting Bakugo because Bakugo wants a fight with someone strong, and he sees that the only person stronger than him is her. So he thoroughly gets his ass whooped. And he's knocked out. So she runs upstairs to help Tanjiro and sees that Tanjiro is currently in a headbutting match with Zenitsu. And when Tanjiro hits Zenitsu in the head really hard with his really thick skull, after the 2 hits from the Vigilante and Nezuko, his skull grew back extra thick so he can withstand that stuff. She started freaking out because he hit his head again. And Zenitsu's now passed out on the floor with a fractured skull. And yes, I just pulled an Inosuke. So he's passed out on the floor with a fractured skull and completely knocked out. The sword is out of his hands now. And when Nezuko gets near Tanjiro, Tanjiro smiles and acts like nothing happened. And she starts checking him, looking for bruises and cuts and scrapes and the overprotective girlfriend kind of way. But obviously, this is not the ship. And then All Might says, villain teams win. Villain team wins via knockout. Instead of wrapping Bakugo in the capture tape, she just threw a roll of capture tape at Bakugo. And when she got up there, she saw that Tanjiro quickly wrapped him up in capture tape while fighting him and then headbutted him to knock him out. He used, I think it's 10th form Cascade. I think so. Don't quote me on that. I haven't watched or read any of the Tanjiro abilities. All I know is he has water and flame breathing. I think it's flame breath. Fire breath. I think it's fire breath. So, I lost my train of thought. So when they get back to the room, All Might says, does anybody know what a true hero is? And everybody looks at him dumbly and says, aren't you a true hero? And he starts laughing and goes, with how I've acted the last few years, no, I'm not a true hero anymore. And everybody looks shocked, and he goes, yes, even I am not a true hero. I have done many bad things in the last few years that I shouldn't have. And everybody asks, like, what? And he says, I'm not going to say, but I still have things that I regret. and that I will admit to not doing the right thing all the time the last few years. And he looks at Nezuko and says, "You and your brother have the attitude of risking their lives to save people." And then she punches All Might in the side, saying, "Shut up. They still don't know the answer." And he goes, "Yes, ma'am," in a flinching kind of way. In a scared, flinching kind of way. So, after that, they go back to class, and Aizawa stands up and is waiting for them. And he asks, "Does anybody know the answer to my question?" And Nezuko walks up to him and says, "You're going to need to rephrase the question a little." And he goes, "Okay, I'll rephrase it a little. Maybe you guys can understand it now. What makes a hero a true hero?" And then Bakugo starts laughing and says, "A true hero is a hero that follows his morals and goals to do what is right, to what he feels is right." And Nezuko walks up to him, slaps him in the back of the head, and says, "Bad Pomeranian." And he flinches when she says Pomeranian. Because he still remembers the beating he got while they were fighting. And Aizawa, seeing this flinch, starts laughing and goes, "Now that is funny." But says, "Kind of. That is somewhat the answer I'm looking for." Then he says, "You have 10 minutes to tell me what the answer is. And if you guys don't get it, I'll tell you the answer. And then you guys have to do something else for the points for the day." And everybody starts talking amongst each other. Asking each other what the answer could be. And then Nezuko walks up to the podium and says, "Don't look for the answer. Ponder this question. What separates a hero from a true hero?" And Ida goes, "Oh, that's easy. What they're willing to lose. And what they're willing to do." And everybody looks at Ida like he just grew a second head and say, "You knew the answer this entire time?" He goes, "Wait, what?" And they all blurt out at Ida at the same time, "A true hero is willing to sacrifice anything and do anything to save who they're trying to save." Then they point at Aizawa and say, "Aizawa has killed to save people. He's a true hero." And Nezuko starts clapping and says, "Ding, ding, ding. 10 billion points." And Aizawa says, "That's her grading, not mine." And starts laughing and goes, "Yeah, that's the right answer. Now I'm going to be training you guys like true heroes." I've already gotten a talking to by Recovery Girl, so I can't break your bodies and then have her reform them and fix them. Anyways, I'll be training you guys like true heroes. So, tomorrow, it's an unscheduled trip to the USJ. We're going to only have you and me and 13. If this was a scheduled trip, it would also be class 1B 2. So this is an unscheduled trip. And everybody's like, yay! And Aizawa goes, shut up! It's not what you think. It's not Universal Studios Japan. And they all quiet down and go, aww. He goes, it's better. It's the Unforeseen Simulation Joint. USJ. But all this time, Uraraka heard 13 and started fangirling and mumbling and pulling a deku from canon and start saying how cool 13 is and how much she adores 13. And I really don't like Uraraka. And I'm gonna give her incentive to use the name Uravity. Because I feel like just saying Uravity is not just a good hero name. And while she's mumbling and talking to herself about 13 and her fighting style, Nezuko walks up and says, please be quiet, Ungravity. And Uraraka looks up and goes, Ungravity? What? Oh, that's a good name, Uravity. Or, yeah, Uravity. And she goes, just be quiet. And then Aizawa goes, okay, you problem children. Nezu has instated the dorm system. So in 1 week's time, you'll be living here at UA. Everybody asks why. And Aizawa says, don't know. He just instated it. So you skip to the next day, and they get to the USJ, and it's a normal trip to the USJ because it was unscheduled, and All Might's not supposed to be there. So they get good rescue training in, and one of the support beams for the burning buildings in the fire area actually does break because it's been worn down so much from use. And Nezuko runs in with her pyrokinesis, turns off all the flames, and checks for anybody there. And nobody's there, so she runs back out and says, it's all good. There's nobody in that building. And then the rest of the building comes crumbling down. And Nezuko goes, oh crap, I think Zenitsu is in there. Then they hear thunder breathing, first form, thunderclap. And one of the pillars next to Nezuko and Zenitsu has been looking at Nezuko for a really long time now. Gets turned into a statue of Nezuko. She looks at it and asks, is this supposed to look like me? And he goes, yeah. Since he's been in the class since the beginning of the year, but nobody's noticed him because he sits in the back and is super quiet and nervous. Not even Aizawa noticed him until yesterday because of the thunderclap. Because he threw a normal ball. He did everything normally, except for the speed. He was faster than Ida. Because of the thunderclap. But that's the only extraordinary piece there is. And Nezuko seeing the accurate, what she looks accurately, she has, and this is where I'm changing her physical looks a little. While she's in 18-year-old form, she has the assets of Tsunade, the slug princess from Naruto. And Nezuko gets a little flustered and she transforms into child Nezuko, the 4-year-old, and just looks at it and jumps up and down, happy that it's a image of her. But since Aizawa was there, he saw the red face and then her start to shrink. He starts laughing, and when they get on the bus, he sits next to Nezuko and says, "Go to adult form." She shakes her head no. He pokes her in the side and says, "Can you please go to adult form?" And starts tickling her. And then when she gets to adult form, he sees a tomato red face and goes, "Oh, oh. It's like that. Okay, I'll leave you alone." So he walks up to the front and goes into caterpillar mode. And she shrinks back down to the 4-year-old size. And since she was sitting in the front of the bus, nobody could see what her face looked like. She went into the caterpillar mode, and same as Aizawa, and just was sitting there. And the only one who actually saw what Nezuko's face looked like besides Aizawa was Tanjiro. And he's just confused on what was happening. So the week goes by and they have to go into the dorm system. And it goes like canon, and everybody's like, let's do a dorm competition. And the only dorm that they're not allowed into is Aizawa's. Because it's his office and he has many safes. And they're all like, why can't we see the teachers? And he's like, because it's mine. Now go. Shoo. Go away, problem children. Nezuko walks out of the dorm and in child form and grows into 18-year-old form and walks to her dorm room. And Tanjiro just follows her. Because they're still basically attached at the hip. So they ask Nezuko if they can see her dorm room. And she's still in adult form and goes, no, turns a tinge pink. Mina recognized the tinge of pink and started going, ooh, I smell tea. I smell a ship coming on, or a coming kind of look and sound. And Nezuko immediately shrinks into the 4-year-old, and she still adamantly says no. And goes through the tiny door that's in the wall. Yes, she has a tiny door. Instead of a normal sized door, she has a tiny door. Not only a 4-year-old can get through. So she walks into her room, shuts it, locks it, and says, now leave me alone. So everybody's like, "Oh, I want to see her room though." Zenitsu knocks on the door. Nezuko opens it, and he thunderclaps in. Then she grabs him with all her strength and throws him out, breaking a window, and he falls out of the uh, area. And he's yelling, Nezuko! Because when he does thunderclap without a sword, it's not as fast as when he does it with a sword. So, and yes, how he got his quirk was he got struck by lightning. So, everybody saw him just immediately fly out a window and knows, oh, he tried to mess with Nezuko. Because Nezuko's not the shy, I don't want to hurt anybody kind of a girl from Demon Slayer. She's the shy, if you mess with me, I'll do what you do to me back. So he kind of slingshotted. Yeah. He kind of had a slingshot effect. So he went super fast. She grabbed him right when he was passing. He went back and then she chucked him forward. She closed her door, locked it again with a keep out sign on the door. And she walks in and sees the multiple katanas that were from her family. And then thinks of how well, this is what it got our attention for him, how well Zenitsu sculpted her and thought he's a pretty good sculptor. So she calls Zenitsu's phone and he asks, "Who's this?" And she goes, "I have a question for you." And he goes, "Nezuko!" And starts crying anime tears, saying, "Why can't you protect me like your brother?" And she goes, "First off, this isn't a protection call. This is a can you do something for me call. And second off, you're weird right this second. Calm your attitude down and yeah, I'll actually start talking to you more." Because I honestly don't like Zenitsu's personality. It's too wimpy. And he's like, "Okay, what do you want me to do?" She's like, "If I hand you a picture of people, can you sculpt them?" He goes, "Sure, but it may take me a little bit." And she says, "That's fine. I want a miniature version of them." And he says, "All I need is their age and a picture of them, and I can sculpt them perfectly." And she goes, "Okay." And all of a sudden, a image appears in front of or below Zenitsu's door. It slides through behind under her door, and with a sticky note saying "Ages are on back" behind the people. So a week later, Zenitsu knocks on Nezuko's door. Nezuko walks out as a 4-year-old and asks, "Is it done?" In the 4-year-old kind of attitude. And he goes, "Yes." Then he hands her the sculptures and she starts crying. It's happy crying, obviously, because the picture was of her family that she lost. I'm going to end it soon. But now she has a set of little ones of her family. And she invites Zenitsu in because she can't carry all of them and tells her to place it on the shrine. And the room is big enough for All Might, but the door is too small for anybody else except Nezuko to walk into. And Mineta. Because Mineta's tiny. Nezuko and Mineta. So he places them on the shrine after crawling into the room. And he asks, who were they? And she starts tearing up a little and says, this was my family until a madman killed them. And then she goes into the last person of my family is Tanjiro. And at this point, Zenitsu, the very emotional person he is crying anime tears. And Nezuko is just slightly tearing up because of her having to think of them. And then she says, can you tell Aizawa, tomorrow I'm not going to class, nor is Tanjiro. He goes, sure, but may I ask why? And she goes, no. Aizawa will know the reason. And by this point, it's the 6-month anniversary of her family's death. So the next day happens, and Zenitsu walks into class and says, Mr. Aizawa, they're not coming today. And Aizawa says, who? Tanjiro and Nezuko. Zenitsu retorts. And he goes, okay, I understand. They'll have to make it up later, though. And Zenitsu says, I think they already know that. Aizawa says, good. Now, time for class. And everybody's just like, what's going on? And the next day, Tanjiro and Nezuko walk in. Tanjiro is in a little bit of a depressed mood. And Nezuko is in a 3-year-old state this time, not a 4-year-old state, like she normally is. And Aizawa, sensing that there's something wrong, he gets up and says, do you guys need another day? Because I'll give it to you. And Tanjiro says, Nezuko does, I don't. And so Nezuko immediately hugs Tanjiro, like a little child clinging on to their parents when they're sad. And Aizawa immediately knows, don't separate them or she's going to freak out. And Aizawa goes, Tanjiro, why don't you go back to the dorms? I'll bring today's lesson to you. And he's like, Okay. And goes back to the dorms. And everybody asks, okay, that is not normal. What is wrong with Nezuko? And Aizawa goes, there's nothing wrong with Nezuko. This happens every month on the same day of the month. And they go, no, it doesn't. And he goes, yes, it does. You just guys haven't seen it because I've been leaving them at home. Now that they have the dorm system in place, now you guys have been paying attention to them a little more. And they ask, so why is Nezuko doing this? And he goes, probably not my place to say, but their entire family was slaughtered by a villain. The only two that are left are Nezuko and Tanjiro. And I adopted them because they had nowhere else to go and they needed a place to live. And everybody's like, oh. And they asked, was yesterday the day? And he goes, yes, yesterday was the day of the month that they were killed. And everybody is in a depressed mood. And Aizawa goes, well, today is the day of the official USJ. And everybody gets a little more excited. So they start going to the USJ, and Nezuko and Tanjiro show up, saying, you know we're not going to actually leave, right? And Aizawa looks down going, yeah, I know. So they show up to the USJ, thinking, oh, it's the same old drill. They don't need the speech, so they're down the stairs when Shigaraki and Kurogiri show up, thinking that, oh, they're going to still be on the stairs because it's the first. They're still going to be on the landing area because this is the first time that they've ever been to the USJ. And Shigaraki and Kurogiri show up. And when Nezuko sees one of the villains that walks through the portal, she immediately goes into her demonic state and goes berserk with rage. And all they can hear is her yelling, "You're not taking any more of my family." And this villain that is currently even like, and who are you? And then she punches him square in the face, and Aizawa feels the hate and anger from Nezuko. Says, everybody out now. And he tells Ida, run and get All Might. The only one who has a chance of slowing her down. And she's currently beating the crap out of every villain. And Tanjiro wasn't there for the attack, so he's just defending himself from the villains, and she's currently demolishing the rest of them. So all that's left is the Nomu, which Shigaraki's just pulled out, Kurogiri, Shigaraki, and the villain that killed Nezuko's family. And his name is one you'll need to go to, I think it's Joker What Ifs. I'll put the link to the playlist in the description, but his name is Jeff the Killer. and he thrives off of blood. So he's currently getting beaten the crap out of. I think it's Joker What Ifs. I'll put the link in the description for for the playlist so you can find out his move sets and what he's able to do. But the Nomu gets out and Joker immediately goes over there and stabs the Nomu. Shigaraki is wondering why and then remembers his moveset. And he's like, oh. And then he tells the Nomu, be a blood bank for Jeff. Because all they know him as Jeff the Killer. That's all they know him by. And 30 minutes pass and Jeff is still fighting Nezuko at full strength. Nezuko has gotten scratches all over her. And when she falls asleep, she regenerates. But right now, she's not regenerating because it's not a very deep and serious cut. So when All Might arrives, he goes, oh, I am here. And Jeff's like, oh, crap, I can't fight him. And then, being distracted, he gets punched in the face again by Nezuko. And this time, so hard, he gets knocked out. And she jumps on him and starts ripping him apart. She's so angry that all she sees is red. It's like when she first was turned into a demon, all she sees was red. That's all she wanted was red. So she ripped him apart limb by limb, and he's dead now. She calms down and sees that she's just killed him. Oops. Yeah, he's a good YouTuber. But anyway, all she sees is that he's dead, and she starts tearing up because she sees the blood all over her, and she didn't want to kill people, but all she saw was red. So she's tearing up, she shrinks down to the 4-year-old state, and Shigaraki thinks, oh, this is my chance to kill her, so we don't have to deal with her anymore. So he runs at her, trying to grab her. And Tanjiro sees this and uses, I think it's 4th form, Water Wheel. He uses Water Breathing Water Wheel and cuts Shigaraki's hand off. He starts yelling in pain and tells Kurogiri to, or no, not Kurogiri, the Nomu to kill that brat. The one that cut his hand off. And Nezuko, seeing that a giant monster thing is trying to kill one of her family, she goes berserk again and rips that thing apart. But this time, this thing has regeneration innately. So it constantly regenerates its limbs, and it's slowly getting overloaded, so it's slowly losing its regeneration, the ability to regenerate quickly. And when it stops regenerating completely, she calms down because she knows it can't move anymore. And then she runs at Shigaraki for trying to kill her last bit of family. But by this time, Kurogiri has already opened a portal behind him, and Shigaraki's stepping in. So he disappears, Kurogiri disappears, they get away, and Nezuko goes back to the 2-year-old state and just cries. And every single one of the UA students that were currently outside hear the crying of a 2-year-old and run in and try to comfort Nezuko. Because they know if Nezuko is sad right now, she has a chance of going berserk if something happens. So she slowly calms down and passes out. And I'm going to end it here because there's something crazy going to happen in the next part. And I think you guys will really like it. But I've been getting all my pictures from Zedge, the app. So if you guys want to find these pictures, go to Zedge. So, yeah. Talk to you guys in the next part. See ya!